Hi.
It's me, Power to the Octopus, and
Living with Miso.
hey!
Hey.
Alright, and we are here to answer your questions.
Steph is here visiting me in Vancouver, Canada. And we decided, since we have so many unanswered asks in our inboxes, that we were going to do a short Q&A for you guys.
Because we're terrible.
If you ask one of us a question in the last couple weeks, month, it'll
Year.
probably it'll probably be in this video. I have 3 questions that are all different scenarios, but they all have a common theme, and it's about family and close friends intentionally triggering you even though they know about your misophonia, and you maybe can't get diagnosed, or you don't have a diagnosis, or your parents won't take you to get diagnosed. And this is basically just kind of how to deal with that and deal with unsupportive family and unsupportive friends.
My best advice is the more that people know and can relate to what you have, I think the better chance you have to getting them to believe you. That's just been my personal experience. If I have somebody who is kind of a jerk about my misophonia and stuff, I'm like, okay, so no. Like, I do whatever I can to relate my misophonia to maybe something they might understand. So I try and relate, my miso to something that they can understand, like being covered in spiders. I'm like, hey, yo, I don't know, when I'm being triggered and stuff, like, can you imagine what it would feel like to be covered in spiders? And that's how I feel. Like, I always try and equate it to something that is relatable to them, because obviously they can't understand. They can't understand that.
Yeah.
No, but they could understand the feeling of being covered in spiders. That's just my best advice, and just kind of becoming an expert yourself, so that if somebody asks you a question, you can sound intelligent about what you have. Because the more authority that you speak with, the more that they're not going to say no to you. If you're like, no, this is a neurological disorder that's caused by a problem in classical conditioning, this and that, and this, basically, like, get to know your disorder. The more you are an expert, I think the better chance you have of getting people to believe you.
I know how easy it can be, especially with friends and family, to maybe mention it once or twice, not have them believe you, and then just lay down and take it after that. I'm not good with confrontation. I don't like confrontation. I avoid it. I know how awkward it is to have a sit-down serious talk with somebody, but at the end of the day, if you have misophonia, you have it, you know you have it, it's not going to go away anytime soon. And so pretending that you don't have it, and pretending that everything that they're doing is okay, and pretending that them intentionally triggering you is okay, is just going to make things worse in the long run.
It's not healthy for anyone.
My dad even starts chasing and hitting me if I get angry over a trigger sound. That is not okay.
That's not okay in any situation.
That is child abuse.
That's child abuse, yeah.
And personally, this was from an anonymous user. If they hadn't posted this anonymously to me, I would stalk their blog until I found out where they lived and found out everything about them, and try my best to report their dad for that, because that is child abuse.
That's not okay.
And it's not okay. If you're not comfortable telling that to your parents, that what you're doing to me is not okay, you can tell a teacher, you can tell a counselor, you can tell a principal.
Somebody who has authority that, could help you. Because, I mean, whether or not you have miso, if your dad is hitting you, that's not okay.
And the other 2 are things of people being intentionally triggered by their mom and being intentionally triggered by their brothers. There comes a point, I know how scary it can be, but there comes a point when you have to stand up for yourself and go, hey, this is not okay, and this is why. And eventually it will happen. I had to wait until I was 18 to get a diagnosis. And my parents didn't take me. I looked on the internet, I found an audiologist, I drove myself there, got a diagnosis, and it took me about 6 months to tell my dad that I'd been officially diagnosed, because I was so scared to tell him. So I know how hard it is. But if you keep mentioning it, if you keep bringing it up, if you are relentless in bringing it up, and you mention it as often as you can, because that was the thing with my mom. She didn't believe me until I started mentioning it a lot.
Insist on it.
And then she started to realize,
this is what I have.
If your parents aren't respecting you, if your parents are abusing you, there comes a point where you need to demand their respect. Because if your parents aren't respecting you, they don't deserve you. In my personal opinion. Moving on.
Alright, so this next question is from an anonymous user. They said, hey, I start misophonia treatment with an audiologist soon, and I was wondering what to expect. So I've been to an audiologist who diagnosed me with misophonia. Her name was Dr. Patty Kalmbach. She's in Denver. And basically, she gave me a hearing test. She basically has to rule out everything else before she can diagnose you with misophonia, to make sure that it's not hyperacusis, it's not tinnitus, it's not any of those things, so that she can be like, no, definitely it is misophonia.
It was a standard hearing test, and then I had to fill out a questionnaire, and then then I have the same interview being like, okay, what are your triggers? Who triggers you? Say, how often are you triggered at school, at work, at home, this and that. And then at the end, she kind of evaluates it and goes, okay, yes or no. What can I do to make my friends and my family and my peers believe about me having misophonia? How can I explain it to them? How do I get their attention about it if they don't believe me? What can I say or do to make them really realize that this is a thing?
My best advice is to do your research. Become an expert in misophonia. Like, just so you can answer whatever questions that they have and present. I know on my blog, I've got, under my FAQ page, I've got a bunch of different links to different scientific journals, things like that, like reliable studies that have been done. And you can give these to your parents and be like, hey, these organizations that are credible, like they've done research, like this is a thing, and you can present evidence and findings, give them all the resources you possibly can, and be persistent. Like, don't lay down and just be like, okay, well, you know, it's not that big of a deal.
Misophonia is something you deal with every single day of your life, and if they're not going to take it serious, then they obviously they don't respect you. And you know what? At the end of the day, you don't need people in your life who don't respect you.
That's true.
There can be an amazing resource.
That's true.
Because there are so many blogs about misophonia, more and more are popping up, like it seems every week.
Every week there's more of them.
So if you can send somebody some links, be like, hey, look at these posts, look at this blog.
There's so many of us.
This is what I experience on a day-to-day basis. People, it really puts it into perspective, because when you try to explain to somebody that you have what is considered a rare disorder, because so many people don't know about it, of course they're going to be skeptical. But if you can find other people who are going through the same struggle and link them to that, be like, hey, look, I'm not alone in this. Other people have the same thing. And something that I personally did with my parents, they didn't really believe me, they didn't really understand. They were like, oh, this is just an attention thing. So I talked personally to my mom and dad, and I said, Mom, Dad, look, it's been this way for years. I didn't make this up. Do you remember when I was like 7 or 8 and you had to pick me up from every sleepover because I couldn't sleep at night because somebody was snoring? Or do you remember this and that? I was constantly telling you to stop breathing so loudly or stop eating so loudly as a kid. And like I could see the gears grinding in their head, thinking, oh my gosh, like she has been doing this for years. And we just didn't notice. So that can really help, drawing experiences from your past and getting them to understand. And like Steph said earlier, relating it to other things like the spiders, because they cannot possibly ever understand exactly what it's like to have misophonia. But if you relate it to something that they can maybe understand, it'll make it easier for them. Do you have something like the side here, like a light that flashes or something that will tell you if it's still recording?
Quick message from Captain Hindsight. My camera likes to turn off without telling us.
It hurts and you miss people, but at the end of the day, if they are causing you stress and they're making your life unhealthy and they're making you so upset all the time, cut them out. That's not healthy. You don't need them.
You don't need somebody who's not going to acknowledge something that is really big and real for you. That's not somebody that you need in your life.
Sounds savage.
It does. It does sound savage, but it's like, I mean, if you're not going to accept me for who I am, like, get out of the way. I don't need you.
If you let go of unhealthy relationships, you will find healthy relationships.
Yes.
And friends who accept you for who you are. Because I had to let go of a couple friends, I started a blog, I found new friends. Seems hard at the time, but you will move on.
And you'll find people that they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You have problems, I got problems, like, woo.
That looks
The next question that I have is from Anonymous. They said, I like the cards you made that explain misophonia. Can I see what you wrote? I would like to have some for my daughter to pass out since she has it and no one understands why she acts the way she does. So for those of you who don't know, I make these misophonia cards, and the reason I made them is because you can't really say no to somebody who's got a card. Like, if you're like, oh, hey, I've got this neurological disorder, here's my blog address, here are resources, like, you can't say no. I don't think people really take me seriously about how, like, nice these are to have. You just give it to them. So anyway, but on the back I say, misophonia is a neurological disorder due to a physical malfunction of the central nervous system. This disorder causes extremely negative emotional responses due to the sufferer upon hearing trigger sounds and floods their body with a rush of adrenaline and anxiety. This causes an unbearable sense of panic. Common triggers include gum chewing, eating sounds, lip smacking, breathing noises, and sniffling. So, I mean, obviously you can customize this. The important thing is that you have, you know, the name on it and some resources that they can go to. You've got maybe a blog or something like that, and you've got the definition.
Yeah, and if you give somebody a card and it's written down, they can have it for a long time. They can't use the excuse, oh, I forgot. You have a card.
You have a card. I gave you a card.
So the next two questions I have were also similar, and it's basically just asking about coping strategies and coping mechanisms that you use.
So many of you guys know that music is a wonderful thing and can cover up noises. First and foremost, my go-to thing, for a long time was music.
The mama sang us to sleep, and now we're stressed out.
So I got these Bose sound canceling earphones that are so nice, and they cancel out, a good majority of sound. On the train, and I go to school, because I'm going to university, I'll listen to music. I've also got these construction headphones that you can get at a hardware store or something like that, and put those over those, and it blocks out quite a bit of sound. Construction headphones are so nice. Like, y'all should get a pair. You need a pair.
I need a pair. Or, the classic one finger over the eardrum kind of, like da 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 da.
And next, some audiologists can hook you up with a pair of white noise hearing aids, and they make, I don't know if you can hear that. So they make white noise, and so they kind of will cover up the softer noises like breathing and stuff if you're in some sort of situation where there's just gonna be some soft sounds. I let her borrow them at her graduation.
As soon as I turned them off, I listened and I realized how many little sounds I could suddenly hear. And I was like, wow, I didn't even notice those with the hearing aids. Just like Ash had to leave Pallet Town to begin his journey to become a Pokemon master, I need some of those.
And also I'm doing, it's kind of like therapy with Tom Dozier. He's one of the lead researchers in Misophonia, and he's developed some sort of called PMR, progressive muscle relaxation. But on his website, it's misophoniatreatment.com/PMR. You can go and practice these PMR sessions. And the idea is that when you are already tense, that makes your misophonia a lot worse because your body interprets what emotions you should be feeling based on what your body is doing. When you're tense around a certain person, so when I'm around my dad, I'll automatically just be kind of like, ooh, because I'm getting ready to fight. And so my body's like, oh, okay, your body's getting ready to fight. I need to be angry or something.
I will fight that stuff.
So if you can teach your body to relax when you want it to relax, then your mind doesn't do that and you don't do the whole panic thing. What PMR helps you do is learn to recognize the individual muscles and practice relaxing them, like tensing them and relaxing them so that you can build the neurons and the skills in order to relax these muscles at will. And I have found that that has helped so much.
When I'm triggered, I tend to like to squeeze things because it lets out the tension. So I recommend to a lot of people to carry on like a stress ball or something.
that's a good idea.
And so I like to have my phone in my hand. And if I'm triggered really bad, I'll squeeze it. I know at school, a couple things I had to do for coping. I used white noise, and I also did presentations with my class at least 2 or 3 times where I brought them packages of Kleenex, and I was like, here, to stop the sniffles.
Blow your nose.
I brought them all 2 pens, 1 black, 1 blue, that weren't clicky, and I was like, here, use these instead, please. And we had class rules, donating class, which nobody followed, but whatever. Yeah, and I also asked my teacher if when she was done instructing and she gave us work that I could go to another smaller classroom by myself. And I presented my knowledge of misophonia to them multiple times, so she knew that it wasn't just me wanting to be away from everybody, it was just me trying my best to cope with
take care of
my
yourself.
life.
And I think for me, the most effective coping strategy is just being open with people and being like, hey, this is something I deal with. Like at the beginning of every semester, it's my least favorite thing in the world to do because I don't like talking in front of people. I get up in front of my class, I've got a PowerPoint, and I tell everybody, hey, I am a student with a disability. This is my disability, just so you can know why I wear my FM system, why I've got all the, I do weird things. I have this neck twitch thing that I do. Just if I'm acting weird, this is why. I'm not crazy. You don't need to avoid me because I'm weird or something like that. And it makes me feel better because I know that they know. I'm pretty sure it makes them feel better a little bit too because they don't see me as kind of scary, what's wrong with her? What's her problem? Why does she use construction headphones? Is she deaf? It just lets people know, no, I'm a safe person. So open communication is the best thing. The more that people know about it, the more that they can help you. And even if they forget and stuff, it's at least if you have told them, you can remind them and be like, hey, remember at the beginning of the semester I did that presentation? They're like, oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. And you're like, yeah.
Can you not
Eat those corn chips?
And they'll be like, oh yeah. And usually people are like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. A couple of my classmates a couple times. I told them the first time, a couple months later they forgot. I told them the second time, they're like, I am so sorry, I forgot, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay.
One of the things I've noticed is the kinder and more understanding you are, the kinder and more understanding other people will be. Just be as kind as you possibly can. It's so painfully sweet because if that person is feeling threatened,
Fight that stuff.
they will be less understanding about what you're asking them to do. If you are open with people, I tell this to people all the time, and they're like, I don't know, I'm too scared. It's like, no, you need to learn that skill. I know it's scary, I know it's terrifying, but you need to learn to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to do it. You are the only one who's consistently in your life enough to take care of yourself, and so it is your job to advocate for yourself. It's important.